Okay, let's start. As most of you know, the goal of these sessions is not only to build a network, it's to wave a task force to strengthen action. For this reason, I think it's a special interest, this type of sessions that different type of actors that are involved in the same subject speak all together about the goals, about the risk, about the challenges, to try to organize their own agendas and to interact among them and to think future actions. For this reason also, it's very important the work that is doing from La Teixidora, that is collecting notes. The people who is following the debate online also can take notes in La Teixidora. Please help us to recording the whole information that we are creating now, because it's very important to take action. That is the main goal for us, take action. Okay, let's start to short presentations. Nicole, Alix from the Co-Communs will start, and please, it's your turn.
Hello, I'm very happy to be there. And as far as we are focused on action, I would be very brief, because just to explain who we are, and Guillaume will explain what we do. And action is in action. I'm just explaining that we have this small organization, which name is La Coop des Communs. We have been created in France. But we are open to the world, and we are very happy to be there. The idea is connecting what we call the commons, which are different kinds of initiative and different kinds of researchers, and connecting the commons and the social and solidarity economy. May we have the other slide? I just have 2 slides. So who we are activists, researchers and entrepreneurs from social and solidarity economy. So we have 2 axes, connecting researchers and practitioners, and connecting social and solidarity economy in the world of the commons, right? This is who we are. What we do is projects, working groups, analysis, and I give the floor to Guillaume, because he will show you one fair example of what we are doing on the subject of the platforms.
And I have much more slides than Nicole, so I think I will move directly there. It will be easier. I can do it myself. It's going to be... Yeah, okay. So, yeah, as Nicole said, we are a network first in France, mixing actors but also researchers around new kinds of collaboration in the social solidarity economy, but also the commons. So, first of all, we are a network of French platforms and also activists that want to promote a fair practices and commons-based practices in the sharing economy in France. But we are also a network present in Europe and maybe other countries in the next month, trying to connect actors who want to make, who move the lines in their various organizations for fair practices in the sharing economy. So I will just begin with explaining the context and why we decided to connect, to create this network. I will have a brief explanation of what we are doing in France with the French network, which is called Plateforme en Commun. And I will finish by explaining the alliance we are trying to create at a more international level. So, as much of you may know, there is a growing criticism against what people commonly call the sharing economy, but that can take various shapes. So many criticists of this movement say that it's some platforms extract much value, that the data privacy is not really ensured, and we don't really know what is done with our data. We just had a conversation about that, and so now comes the question, is the sharing economy about sharing what is mine, or other actors taking what is mine? And so worldwide there have been a movement trying to identify these challenges and to bring actors together, which is called platform cooperativism, with this idea of, let's say, an ideal platform that will be detained by its own community, who will have the power in this platform, but that will also share the value created on that platform. And so this movement has grown for the last 4 or 5 years around the world. Nowadays, the inventory trying to gather all the initiatives has identified more than 90 platform cooperatives around the world, but actually there are much more organizations active in this fight for democracy in the platform economy, and this platform can be found in many various sectors. And in France, we are not like one of the platform co-ops movement, because we are gathering many actors also from the commons, from the social and solidarity economy, so it's a more widespread network, but we are aiming to do quite the same in a French territory. So the name is Platform en Commun. We have gathered many platforms, such as Coop Cycle, which is a food delivery platform, but also Open Food Friends for local food networks, and many more. And so this project has been launched by La Coop des Communs, which Nicole mentioned previously. So in this aim to connect actors and experts, researchers in a shared process of getting knowledge and being able to identify the stakes of all these platforms. And so we can say, in a way, we are a common square, because the platforms themselves tend to identify as commons, but we try to gather these platforms and create resources together to help this platform grow. And so all these platforms share some values. You have them here, which are present in our charter. And so we did different groups, for example, tackling the legal aspects, but also inter-cooperation, how we can technically cooperate. And so now we are heading more to concrete projects. For example, we have a group dealing with innovative accounting, how you can have new practices of accounting related to the open community of platforms, and how you can really identify the value which is created by the users themselves. But we also have a group focused on data interoperability. How can you have standards that are shared by different platform co-ops and alternative platforms, so that they can get more powerful by using common data. So, and in general, the aim of this project is to document all these platforms. And so on the international level, with some allies, we are trying to do quite the same, but the idea is to be more widespread, and also to make lines move inside our respective worlds and organizations to promote this vision of fair platform. And so we gathered several actors from the social and solidarity economy, but also the commons, labor unions, and people from municipalities, public authorities. You have some names here, for example, our friends from SMART, but also from Demons, who we had several events, and with this aim to develop a sharing economy rooted in local territories, and also to ensure that the labor that is the contribution that is necessary for these platforms to live has a frame which is which guarantees protection and is valuable for the users. And so, yeah, that's what we did. So different events that we organized, and the idea is to have this dialogue, permanent dialogue between institutions to promote this vision of fair platforms. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. And if you want to join this alliance with your organization or as actors personally, you can reach us. You have all of our contacts.
Yes, I just want to add one point. It's very complicated to do the type of job we are doing, especially on the international level, because people are, focused on action. That's a good idea, but you have the cooperatives which are working in one silo, the commons in another one, the peer-to-peer another one, in the cities another one. If you want to try to promote a share view, not thinking that you will solve the question of the labor only with the trade unions and the cooperatives, but also talking with the cities and whatever, it is very, very complicated. And this is why we are very, very happy to be there. And if you have questions, it would be very interesting.
Thank you so much, Nicole, Guillaume. I think, Martin, you as you prefer. Mohammed, it's going to introduce us the chess and especially the one section of the chess.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, basically, I would like to frame it in 3 layers because I represent 3 different communities. I'm working at Kaleidoscope, a cooperative agency, working on projects development and expert assistance to the public sector generally. We work in areas such as social innovation, social entrepreneurship, and any other projects that have to do with collective projects and cooperativism. At the second level, we are members of CHESS. CHESS is the Catalan network of social and solidarity economy. We are about 300 members, entities, organizations, social enterprises, cooperatives, and individual members as well. At the third layer, as one of the commissions, we belong to the Commons, Procomuns commission. We are different members, either insiders, so members from the Catalan solidarity economy, or outsiders, so other organizations that make a call to join our commission. Just briefly, it has been created at the beginning of this year, 2018. And basically, the main purpose is to debate, share, discuss, and bridge the areas that they have been talking about before in between the collaborative and platform economy and social and solidarity economy. In both areas, there are many opportunities and challenges, but better if we work together, we will basically be more efficient and tackle both areas in a more sustainable way. Briefly, this is what we are working on, but probably it would be better to discuss any other issue later on, any question that you might have, because probably we're not going to have enough time for everyone to introduce our organizations. So I'll give space to cities, perhaps.
Thank you very much. My name is Martin Vanden. I work with Cities, which is an acronym for a very long name, the Center for the International Center for the Transfer of Knowledge and Innovation in the Social and Solidarity Economy. We're a young organization. We were started in 2016 after the Global Social Economy Forum in Montreal by the city of Barcelona, Montreal, Seoul, and Bilbao, with the aim of creating an organization that would foster the transfer of knowledge, models, experiences from one territory to the other, and to share our experiences. And so we've just been through our first year of operation, I would say our first real year this year. And we're really, it's really interesting for us, especially in Montreal, because the notion of the commons in Montreal, we have a long history of social and solidarity economy, mostly through cooperatives. I would say that even the concept of social economy, at least the vocabulary, is also quite recent for us. Our tradition is really a cooperative tradition. And it's the same thing with the commons. The commons is something that I think we've always been doing. I would say that the First Nations in Canada were applying the commons in their way of living. You know, the Naskapi, the Anishinaabe, and they still do. But it's a new vocabulary as well that's coming mostly from the very important French immigration that we've been seeing, especially since the crisis in 2008. They've arrived in Montreal with this notion of the urban commons. And we've been having a lot of discussions in Montreal between the people of the social and solidarity economy and the commons, a lot of debates, asking ourselves, is it the same thing? Are we doing the same thing? Why are we using different words? There was even some tension, I would say, at some point. And we're sort of coming to a point of resolution of these debates and these discussions. It's been very interesting. And so cities has been one of the agendas we have with Barcelona and Montreal in our collaborations is to connect our commons movements, organizations, to try to learn from each other. And so in 2 weeks, my colleague Laura Espiau-Guarner is coming with a delegation of 15 people from Montreal, including people from the City of Montreal and the Department of Urban Planning. And we're going to do a 1-week mission here in Barcelona to come and learn and see what's happening here, and also allow the people from the City of Montreal to learn from their colleagues at the City of Barcelona to see what are the public policies, the programs, the approaches that you have here in Barcelona to not only help these projects emerge, but to strengthen them, to connect them. Because for us, it's really a new reality. And the civil servants at Montreal, we have a very large commons project called Bâtiment 7, which resulted after years of occupation of a building that belonged to our large railroad company. Contaminated soils, and the citizens got tired of having this huge building abandoned in the middle of their neighborhood, and were able to convince the company and the city to pass it over to the citizens. It's a huge project. It's a huge, huge building. And it was a real struggle for the city because they had never seen, first of all, such a large occupation. They had no programs. They had no understanding of how to deal with this. And so now they're spending a lot of energy and time trying to, and it's a beautiful project, but they don't have the tools to deal with this kind of new citizen movements, very informal approach, and especially the people at the Department of Economic Development felt completely unable to deal with this type of approach. So we're very happy to come here to Barcelona to learn. We hope that we'll be able to also eventually have a mission from Barcelona to come to Montreal and with the other territories we're working with. So I'll leave it at that for now. But
Hi to everyone. On behalf of the team of the World Social Forum of Transformative Economies, my name is Iris. I have some of the team here, Fernando and Julia. We will present very briefly a project, or more than a project, a process that is starting to work, these days. So when we talk about the World Social Forum of Transformative Economies, that will take place in Barcelona in 2 phases, basically in 2019 and 2020. What are we thinking, or what is our goal? So we're trying to create a dialogue, a confluence between the main movements that already working on the transformative economies. So we've created or we've designed a forum, a thematic forum that will have some access, that will be working independently, but the most important that we will want to create these spaces for them to talk and to confluence, to converge. The axes that are starting to work currently are the feminist economies and gender perspective axis, the agriculture and food sovereignty, the commons. We're talking about the environmental, urban, and digital. Also, the social and solidarity economy, of course, including fair trade, cooperativism, and ethical banking. We are also thinking about some transversal axes. For example, public policies is one of the most important ones. We're also thinking about the training and research axis. It's a process that it's being constructed as we go. So we are thinking that this will be very important during the forum. We are also open to some others that might be created along the road. So as I mentioned before, we are thinking. We are thinking in Well, in two moments, in 2019, so next year, from the 5th to 7th of April, we're thinking in a moment of a gathering, a meeting, previous to the big meeting in 2020, that we're thinking more or less maybe around 500 people from the entities, the organizations, the movements that are more trying to construct this process, that are working already in the process. So for us, the 2019 will be a moment to set the goals, to set the governance model, to share the impressions, the challenges that we are being facing, so that we have a whole year to prepare and to work on these specific goals that we will set in this moment. No? Also, the 2020 will be. We're thinking about a week of events, of talks, of assemblies, also cultural activities, so that we can work together between the movements, organizations, people that will join us in the more deep discussions, but also we will try to engage the city in this kind of debates, no? To spread the word. One of the main goals that we are trying to set and that we are working on is that we aim to make the process the objective of this forum, and create some kind of sustainable connections and synergies that we hope that will continue after the 2020. Just a bit explanation of the road so far. This World Social Forum was validated in the World Social Forum in Bahia last year. Ever since there are three main networks that have launched the process so far. We are hoping to join more and more people. These three networks were CHES, which is the Catalan network of social and solidarity economies, REAS, which is the same one, but from Spain, from the state, and RIPES, which is the network of networks on an international, intercontinental level. Very recently, an operational team has been created. I'm part of it, together with Julia and three other colleagues. We are based in Barcelona, and we're trying to help and to accompany this process, which is for us, the main important part is the work that has already started inside the axis that I presented before. They're starting to work, to set their own goals, to set their, to try to do a mapping of the movements, organizations, both international and local levels that want to invite or to engage in this process so that the process has some meaning, some real meaning. And finally, we are happy to explain and announce that these axes that so far have been working independently will meet in our first inter-axis assembly that will take place next week, where we will aim to start this real dialogue between these different movements, no? To assure that this confluence start not only in 2019 in 3 days or 2020 in a week, but along the process. Yes, I leave you. We've launched a website very recently. It's work in progress, so be patient, but we will be posting more and more information. It's transformadora.org, and you can also always reach us in hola@transformadora.org.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for these presentations. I invite to Fernando, please, to come with us in order to start the debate. Maybe Martin and Nicole as advance some of the challenges and risks of this type of projects. I want to try to detect and to focus on the risk, especially the risk and challenges of each initiative. How to promote commons and how to promote social and solidarity economy, which are the risks. How to get, for example, the media audience, no? This maybe could be a risk. I will try to ask for you to try to do this effort to summarize very briefly which are the risks and opportunities of to promote this type of initiative. Please.
I don't understand your question. Why are you, we are here to do things together, try to do things together. Really, it's just a question for you, Rickard. Why do you want us to focus on risks? Focus on what we could do, on opportunities.
Well, in my case, for example, have been studying a cooperative movement, agroecology cooperative movement, for 3 years. And we don't get the audience of the media, only a small audience of the media. It's very difficult to change these risks. The whole city is consuming in another framework of the cooperative do. For me, this is a risk. This is a risk.
No. Well, the risk is to be too tired to continue to work together. This is the risk. The risk is to be exhausted. The risk is to be too busy. The risk is not to find any money to meet. This is the risk. And but we found the money to be there. And this is, for me, this is really how we can find. The risk is not to find the means to create connections between us.
I'll kind of reframe it because I don't really see it as a risk, but we might keep an eye on the right track. This is maybe the reframe of probably the Ricard's point of view, because personally, from projects that we have been working on so far, we might be, sometimes we feel like we are focusing in something that's not taking us anywhere. We are losing energy, we're losing, it just happens sometimes. I'm not saying that it's really common, but it does happen because it's something really ideological. It's something that takes energy, because you mentioned before that you need to talk to many different stakeholders, and some of them are really powerful. Some of them cannot do much, like public administrations. They are also attached to some other responsibilities. So you make a call, you have really good projects that have an amazing social impact on your local community or regional community. But you know, for them, it also takes energy to actually support you. This is kind of great example, the Sharing City Summit. But each of us, we are kind of fighting on a daily basis to push forward our singular projects on a local level, singular level, or whatever level. In your case, international level. Not to mention the World Forum, the Social World Forum. It takes a lot of energy to actually join forces because we have many different axes. You have many different actors to engage. And as they mentioned, it's the pathway, the main objective, and not an end, not the last event that we might have in 2 years on.
So the risk is not the media?
It's not the risk. In media, it's in there. Media is just another stakeholder that we may approach in the right way. Probably we need to focus on different strategies, methodologies. That might be just different approach. But yeah, as a sum up, I might just change risk for right focus. That's it.
Yes, and in order to help Ricard, because he's a good friend, I want to talk about an external risk that we have. And the external risk is also here, no? We are part of a system that is not doing the good things, no? It's a system that is trying to destroy life in the planet. So for me, it's the biggest risk that we have is not to be organized to get in front of this destroying system that is capitalism, no? So we have to be stronger and to be organized to fight against this. And this is the most important risk that we have as humanity, no? As a movement, no? That's for me the main idea.
I tend to agree with Fernando. I think that the biggest risk for us is to be divided, not focused. We need to see where are the pressure points, what are the levers we need to work on. I think our responsibility is very big. The moment is extremely critical. We've never faced the challenges that we're facing right now. We're facing potential annihilation, the destruction of the planet, in a relatively short term. And we've never faced these challenges. There's the risk also of being co-opted by the capitalist economy. This happens repetitively. It happened with fair trade, and it can happen. It's happening with technology, with the sharing economy. So we need to be very focused, very organized, not waste any time, and it's a very big responsibility. And I think the question of the media and the visibility, I think it's relatively minor. I think in the sense that we need to focus on our actions. I think the visibility comes from the impact that we have, from our ability to, be transformative. And I think the summit, it's the right word. We need to transform everything right now. And I think that based on the impact, the success we're going to have, the visibility will come. And I think we've seen it in history. Things start small, and eventually, when you're doing the right thing, there's sort of a snowball effect that's very quick, right? You can go from a very small number of people to a very large number of people very quickly. And so I'm not worried about that part. I'm worried about, are we doing the right things? Are we working together? Not being divided over vocabulary, ideology. We just have to keep moving.
I think we can talk about a risk and an advantage, because many people of the cooperatives and social solidarity movement, commerce movement, has studied the history. So we are now in a point that it happened 3-4 decades ago. And one lesson we learned from the past is how to deal with public administration, for instance, in order to avoid the co-optation. I like very much a graffiti, a French graffiti. Je participe, tu participes, nous participons, ils profitent. They take advantages of our participation. So I think a kind of risk and challenge is how to assure a framework, a legal framework, public policies that really respect the autonomy of the movements, and how to avoid the repeating history of co-optation and regulations that are a soft way to cut down these movements. So it's very important to look at the history and to take the lessons and apply them at the present. And I think media is really important. We are in a media and cultural enclosure. We are dominated by very big empires, financial and media corporate empires, leading us to a type of consumption, as we see here. So I think taking the media is very important.
Nuria helps me to introduce the next point, that it's the role also of the public policies in this promotion of this type of initiatives.
Okay. I would not forget what we just mentioned. Media is kind of challenge that we are facing. But we could not literally face media, because media is there. We have, like, we had some issues with media lately, last 2 or 3 weeks, on the social economy, solidarity economy sector, because they linked us with some issues at the public level that we were not involved at all, but media is there. So we should do what we know well what to do. We should do our duties. We should perpetuate it. We should insist in what we do, connect with, similars and our partners, and grow partnerships. And with that, we might scale sustainably, because media, we might not get that help on the short term. So as we gather right now, we could keep talking later on, tomorrow, next week, in 2 weeks, and then these connections will help us. Because if we lose track and then we focus and we try to fight against media, we might kind of lose this track that we were mentioning before. So it is right, but we should keep our energy split in what is really interesting for our short term and what is just something to keep an eye on. Yeah, sure. This is our responsibility as well.
Okay, to talk about public policies, right, it was a question. I think on the first round, answering the first question, we talked about the risks. We didn't talk too much about the opportunities. And public policies and cities, of course, has a great opportunities. And this is why we tried to promote transversal connections between the cities, territories, unions, commons, cooperatives, and whatever. Not having this, silos, people organizing their own policies, but and I should say I think here in Barcelona you have invented a new way of, this is how we feel it, a new way of conceiving public policies. And what you have done, it's a sort of model. I don't know, and of course, it's not possible to do the same thing everywhere in the world, but it's a sort of models, and it would be very interesting to explain more how you worked the common and the participation as a policy, and how you worked on public services and participation of the people and whatever. For instance, we have some research articles which explain what you have done, And it could be very, very interesting if you had the possibility, coming from Barcelona, coming from other cities, to come to France and explain, for instance, France or in other countries, to explain how you conceived this public policy. We had now at a stage where it is very important not to think about public policies like it comes from somewhere in the sky and coming down to these poor people who were waiting for these policies, but how we can conceive new way of working all together, because we are not powerful alone, but we are, many of us would not fragmented could transform something, right?
I think the public policy is key, but I think first we need to reclaim our democracies. And for that, I think that the local level is very important. You mentioned cities. I think it's our closest governments or our local governments are the one where we can most easily influence and organize at the local level. The rise of fascism, we're seeing what's happening in Brazil, the United States, and France, and Italy. The fake governments we have, the false progressive governments that we have, that get elected on a progressive basis and then fall into the hands of large corporations, show us that our democracies are completely broken. And so I think, that at least personally, I think that the local level is very important, and we need to build from that level back up. Of course, we need to act at all those levels. The link for me with public policy is how do we get those policies? We have to have progressive people in power to do that. You can see Brazil. Brazil's a great example where it had a fabulous transformation for the last 15 years, and I'm very worried with what's going to happen. There's going to be a tremendous deconstruction. So we need to be united in that front as well. And I think, cities as an organization, the organization I work for, seeing progressive cities like Barcelona and like Seoul, where there's amazing things happening, and other cities are joining. We're talking to Puebla in Mexico right now. We need to work together as progressive territories, not just governments, but the civil society needs to be present in our organizations as well, and the researchers and everybody. But it's again, like Fernando said, it's a critical time.
Yeah, for me, it's a surprise that you say that it's a Barcelona model. No, I hope we have this, or we have developed this. No, for sure. When we start with this idea of organize the World Social Forum, at the beginning there were a little bit of this. No, we feel a lot of people asking us for the Barcelona model, or looking at Barcelona as a model. No, and we say, okay, if we are doing something about this, we have to show to the world what we are doing, and maybe it's a new model or something like this. I hope. My experience in this way, in this area of public policies, is that it's not easy to win the power in a municipal level. No, it's a hard work of a lot of people doing new parties and new programs and everything to win the power. It's so difficult to win the power to change. No, here we have the power at the municipality, but the institution is something very difficult to change. It's not enough to have the power. You need a lot of power, because there is a lot of powers outside the institution trying to not change this. So we cannot disconnect the the public policies to the other parts of the system, no? And big companies are an important part of this system, and another level of political institutions are another part of the system. So for me, it's really interesting the experience that we have in public policies at a municipal level, and I think that we are working in a good way in this reflection of the importance of municipalities to build the whole system. But we don't have to forget that have enough power to change the things is about the world level or the states level and big institutions level like the European Unions and everything. No, we don't have to forget all these levels. And here it's true, when you leave this opportunity that we have in Barcelona of building together public policies between movement and public institutions, it's easy to keep in this idea that you are doing the right things, no? And we need to open a little bit. Yeah, maybe we are doing the right things, but in a small local level, in a small town, all over the world. It's a complex question for me.
I would like to add something on your comments, because it's very important to mention the speed of change and the solid change, because we might need a transformative change, but we should strategically consider this change as a slow step that we might take, considering all the actors that might have superior power or inferior power, but just to keep it in account, because if we take this speed train and we want to change so quickly, then we might feel like we are just going back for no reasons. And this happens when we don't have this public support, this strong public support. We just have this spontaneous support. We might have a stand in a congress, or we might have a bunch of euros for a project, and then next year or 2 years after, we just get out of the project because of no reasons. That's why it's really important to consider that we might think about the proper speed on our project. So we take step by step, and we solidify our our common projects. And it's very important that we are all of us here, because we represent different realities in here, and this is very important.
I think when you're talking of exterior powers and bigger powers, I want to bring it back to what Ricardo was saying about the media and the visibility. I think that's a power we need to consider, because in order to have that strong long-term support, we also need to have an understanding of what we're doing and what we need to do. And the media plays a huge role in that, in terms of how it's conveying the message. I think how the debate around climate change evolved is a good example. We've known climate change is a problem since the late 80s, right? Since the Rio summit in 1990, it was on the agenda. And it's only becoming a serious issue now, when it's almost too late, right? And I think you look at the role the media has played and how it was manipulated because of who controls it. It's a very good example. And so we can have progressive governments trying to bring change, but if the larger public doesn't have, and because we don't control those medias, we don't control the message, that's a huge issue, right?
In the previous Nicole, in the previous speak of Nicole, she has give some examples or some ideas about how to take action in the order to exchange models. In this case, in the last part of the debate, I please ask you to take attention of that and how to take action. What will be the next steps? Also, we have the possibility to record more actions in La Teixidora, for example, that is collecting the debate. But try to focus now on small actions or to big actions, but how to take action.
I would say something reacting to what you have said, and it is action. You said we don't have the whole power, but we have some power. The first power we have is to understand what we want to do, and not each of us, but all of us and each of us, and try to understand how it is difficult to do what we want to do. Guido's Martok is over there. He has been working here. He's a lawyer, and he has been working on comparative international law and apply to the platforms. And he says, in a word, you can ask to these platforms to be fair or to be, fair, yeah, without a fair regulation. You can ask to cooperatives, to non-profit organizations, to mutual societies, to whatever, to be fair organization if you have competition regulation which prevent them to not to externalize the externality, environmental and social externality. So the first action for me that we try to do and we could promote is to show how the global regulation and in how the global regulation prevent us to promote the type of policies we would like to promote in order, or the type of organization we would like to promote in order to be able to not only to have projects, but to be, how can I say, pérenne, to survive, to be able to last. And this is very complicated. The time now, we are working on this, the time now has become to try to work on devices, frameworks, legal frameworks, tools, in order to be able to work as we want to work. Not only, talking about our visions and our view, but by which paths our future is able to take a real frame. This is so for me, this is the first action. Analyzing our needs on devices, tool management, and whatever that we need to be able to survive and to transform the world. Maybe you think it's not very concrete, but we have proposal to accounting standards or licenses, reciprocity licenses. We have worked on models for reciprocity licenses. So we have tools, and we would like to, and I'm sure you have also, so we could try to promote this type of tools.
Yeah, for example, in our network of alternative platforms, as we presented, we have really this idea of coming from the ground, analyzing the concrete project with the project holders, and try to make the patterns emerge. How do they get fundings? What are the best practices? Which kind of allies can they rely on? And from their concrete needs, with all those people who are from institutions, for example, labor institutions, public authorities, then they can identify what are the needs of the actors on the ground and make it grow in their own networks. So to have this cross fertilization of the knowledge, but also the path to take action. So this networks of action of actors based on research action, like the connection between practitioners and those who can help identify the stakes is really important. And so, for example, we are doing it locally in France, but I think it's also important to share between the networks what are the best practices, what we are trying to do, for example, with Co-Communs. So this is like a kind of a pyramid of knowledge.
To build on what Guillaume is saying, I think in an organization, cities, I think one important action is the sharing and the cross-pollinization we're doing among our different cities and territories and movements. But I also think an important action is to defend our institutions, because we talked about co-opting, and we see a lot of our older cooperatives either not doing what should be done, not transforming themselves, or having been co-opted by or infiltrated in some cases by other private institutions. And I think we need to defend that because we don't have time to rebuild these. I think it's faster and better to reconquer them. I'm thinking of the large agricultural co-ops, the credit union movement, and specifically I'm thinking of our experience in Canada. But we're seeing a lot of those organizations fall, and I think we need to be conscious that there's also action in building, but we also need to defend. And I think we don't talk enough about that because in many cases, the social and solidarity economy is under assault in many countries, either through public policy or either through the assault of big business. And so working at the grassroots level and creating the new organizations and at the local level is important, but we also need those larger organizations that help structure our food systems, our financing, building housing, et cetera, et cetera. And that's something that we don't talk enough about, I think.
I'll try to keep it concrete. The great opportunity that we have as the Catalan network of solidarity economies, we are exploring the bridge that connects the solidarity economy and the collaborative and collective economy. And this is already a great opportunity that we could co-create different projects together. And the second one is to internationalize the ecosystem and the phenomena. So through these two ecosystems, one that we are representing here and the other one that the project that we are working on together, we could reach at probably superior levels. So.
We want to do, or we propose to do, to keep all these ideas together and put this on the World Social Forum. No, we are a tool for this, and the idea is that we can, I think, open this process to be stronger and to be more people trying to do all the things that we have said in different levels. So for me, that's the main idea I want to keep is we want to start this process of getting out for our comfort space, no? We know a lot about commons, about solidarity economy, about feminist economy. We want to get out for the comfortable spaces and get in touch with the others, with the people who are close to us, and try to organize something better and something bigger. And that's the proposal of the forum, so we are a call for action. We are only that.
A small intervention of with the public. Vibers, please.
1 minute. I hope it will be short. I actually wanted to ask about the global dimension, because one thing that I don't know, maybe I missed, is the fact that there's uneven geographical development, and when we talk about intercooperation, is mostly intercooperation between us, of course, putting aside the World Social Forum. So when you think about regions which are a part of the global economy, and actually that's where the extraction happens, do your organizations have a strategy to reach to the local communities who are trying to create alternative economies and trying to fight the global extraction actions that are happening outside, which might not have access to the European intercooperation because of walls and frontiers?
We need another debate to answer that, but I think we should move to the next session. Thank you so much. The debate is open. The comunificadora is open. Please, Teixidora. Comunificadora, Teixidora. Sorry for lapsus. La Teixidora, la comunificadora. But it's open and you can give and add more information there. Thank you so much, all.